Hello everyone, this is Maxwell Kale here today, and I'll be reading the rest of my book, Ode, which you can find on Amazon, and I'm going to be reading the rest of it right now, so I hope you enjoy. I'm really proud of making my own book, and I actually got a second one already planned that I've been working on. It's called Haiku, and I hope you enjoy that one too, and I'll read it when I'm done with that in a few weeks or a month or whatever. So here we go. An Ode to Impossible Acts. You know how the sun looks on the melting snow on the road, where you just want to stop and become blinded in the way it reflects, yet sadly the cars behind you make such an act impossible. An ode to a flaw. Can you tell me a flaw that exists not in comparison? Can such a flaw besmirch the value I give it? And does this flaw remain flawed when it comes from one side to the next? An ode to the loveless man. Here's to you, the loveless man, for I bring love in a hand. Do not hesitate, reach out, for all is not lost. If this word love were to mean all to you, my loveless man, then I'll shudder to name this such a thing. For the word love has left you less, and with an open hand I reach to bring you whole. An ode to a gift. To you, my worthless man, I come not carrying worth, for such a goal is worthless, as are all goals. I come giving you nothing, for that which does not exist can be neither good nor bad. And like how you spent all of eternity prior to your life, you are nothing. Be free. An ode to Held. Today I walked into the snow, simply as a man, with the gray clouds over me, and the howl of the wind. I watched the coldness surround me, and to such coldness I gave myself, simply as a man, being held. Today I walked into the snow. An ode to wholeness. In this land of value, I declare myself a man of no value. For all that is deemed valuable is not I, and for all that is cast aside and said deeming runs through every atom of my being. And like a tree that bears no fruit, nobody comes to these branches of mine with their desire. And like that tree, I remain whole. An ode to an idiot. I met myself one summer outside town in the middle of August. This self, he smiled like a bastard and he looked like one too. He didn't know how to speak, nobody taught him how to dress, he was a happy idiot. I shot him in the field one summer in the middle of August. An ode to the love of men. Here is a poem for the man who knew not the love of another, for I to you give such love. Simply as a man yearning to see another man smile. This doesn't have to be sexual. An ode to learn again. If cruelty came to you as love, and such love deems you worthless, I come to you in an act not of cruelty, and not with love. For such a word to you has grown to be cruel. But I come with actions not held to the expectations of such a word, such as love. This flesh of mine knows not the prison of words and the heat of passion, and these hands of mine cannot hold judgment, for they know not such a thing. For this I lay my hand on you, so we together can learn again. An ode to jealousy. When I see a better man as a man, I'm supposed to list everything wrong with him and everything better in me. Yet I've grown weary of such things, and the solace of mediocrity has grown ideal. An ode to lust. One day in the woods I met you with your shaved head and long beard getting naked by the river. And in this river I saw reflections of myself, clothed and clean-shaven. When you splashed water on me and laughed, I knew I grew to hate you, and yet lusted you all the same. An ode to gray. When the skies are gray and the snow is slightly falling, does it fall with me as I, a man, walk out into the cold, into my car? Does the snow too find joy in the way it melts upon my window and my hands shiver? And will the cold find me when I shut my door, and will it ever really know sometimes I welcome it so? An ode to pain. To call such a thing as this pain would simply become sounds vibrating in the air. For this feeling predates the essence of such a word, and this essence has gone beyond words, to where the thought of such a concept and my given name become one. An ode to worth. If I were to line up every man, would I start in order of height? Or would I go by first name, last name? Would I go by wealth, intelligence, or looks? Would all men look the same if I just lined them up randomly? An ode to compassion. Would you take a walk with the lonely man? Nobody owes him anything, and I admit I walked past him starving. I've got no luck to give such a man no money to, but as a man I have myself to give. I see him outside every day. I too am lonely, but I don't want to admit it. I should probably just look away. Would I be less of a man if I walked with him? An ode to unity. To think this sound of rain I hear outside my window has been the same banal sound to anyone with working ears in time. As if such a sound should unite working ears. Outside the window, the sound of rain I hear. An ode to beauty. For this ode to beauty requires me to know beauty, and sadly I know it so, and I wish it not. For my knowledge of all that is beautiful makes ever so much not beautiful, and it damns me so. The idea of beauty is the tyranny, and beauty muttered to babbling is freedom. An ode to the color of my eyes. Fear and despair, within you I act, and within these actions I live, and in the act of living I forgive you. For such is the color of my eye, in life you just came, and I just go with you the same. An ode to ancient Greek. If you like I have learned what an ideal body is, and in this ideal have learned that which we call our own bodies are not ideal, please sit with me on the wooden floor as we sit and talk. I will open the window, but worry not, for no one is around. If you like I have a giant list where it all went wrong, let's write this list in some language neither of us really know and question if words really mean anything if we've never grown fluent in them. Is this list as threatening in ancient Greek? Throughout all this, I think I saw you somewhat smile. An ode to language. Oh, language, this world you have given me has never ever really let me be me. For all of me were words spoken to me or of me and never me before you. In the active expression you've neutered it all. Even all this means more than it should. An ode to screwing. I yearn to meet you in the primal awakening of our cherished desire, and as we fend off eternity with feral lust. Two men ravaged naked, staying warm in the cold of the tundra of our souls, the gates of heaven are creaking. And to me and you to I we grant acceptance, simply screwing in the long day night we speak of men. An ode to atheism. In the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was with I, and the Word was I. For I am all that I define, and without I these words you speak of mean nothing. An ode to waves. How I hope you never feel as I do, my friend. Yet if luck be the man who has used us both and left us dry, then I shall dry out with you. And if we can never dry ourselves out, I will hold your hand as we take a walk out into the waves of fate and try our best to smile. And for those finding themselves unable to dream, I walk with you in those sleepless nights of hope you never feel as I do, my friend. An ode to celebration. To those no longer living but find themselves caught in the predicament of still surviving, I celebrate you and all of you. To me, those that cower in the dark stand taller than the tallest of the tall stands in the light. And I, for one, spread the message that such cowering deserves celebration. An ode to shiver. If I were to take a walk out into the woods, would this thought of worthlessness walk with me? For what is worth to a forest not worth a thing? Should the trees sulk over in the wind with me, and should they too shiver? An ode to goals. If joy were to be the goal, then let me here and now label all I've found as of now joy. For such goals keep me up at night, and I want to sleep. An ode to a man's smile. In a breath you whisper to me, "Can shame catch us in the woods? With your bare ass naked on display I forgot, but I think you smiled." Do words mean anything to those that don't speak them? Then no. So no, I said. Yet don't our lives mean so much more? While the shame watched us in the woods, did it see you smile? An ode to society. For all of I is you to me, back to I. An ode to terror. In the face of true terror of man, I stand with you, not simply as a man, but as one whose starvation stands as the last remnants of his humanity. As poverty punishes the active life and shatters dignity, and the long hall fills with disgust, this aching stomach of one who perhaps was once a man, now stumbles mumbling, "I starve with you." An ode to ideas. A man once told me the idea of something was better than the reality of said something. Perhaps that was the day I ran out of ideas, because these days it all just seems more real. An ode to hope. Oh, death! How you'll never know how this idea of life meant so much to me. For even I who lived cursed disease with said life, the idea of life meant more to me than you'll ever know. How you'll never know what I saw and would see was nothing compared to what I could see. For life, to such fools as you and I, is not life. The idea of life is life encompassed. Oh, death, how you'll never know what I meant to write. An ode to my odes. For even if this body of mine declares itself no longer living, I shall live. For in defiance I still lived. The breath of me dances outside this body back to the dance of air, as if it often danced unwilling, lulling me into passive resistance. Watch as this body means nothing, as it simply rots, yet I shall live. For in my defiance I still lived, and I wrote my life upon the wall. An ode to meaning. To tell you the truth, I've written the same poem so many times, I feel I simply trace the lines of all the words without finding a new meaning. An ode to myself. If I'm to die in this kingdom of forever, that seems so senselessly long, whose true intents lay unapparent, then let me die within this second, for why did this kingdom lull me into forever? When all should cease upon an hour or a minute, damn this royal world for its gift of envy and wasted time. Was I to write an elegy to the man I knew all too well or barely knew? O kingdom of forever, does the word forever become just a sound to death? Does he too hold a false meaning of such a word? Did I speak of the world with words thrust upon me, or did I listen to the world with sounds not judged? Do such sounds exist? If I'm to die in this kingdom of forever, then that seems so senselessly long, then let me die as if I've never loved it so achingly so. An ode to an unsolicited dick pic. Oh, how your expectations of me are the illusion that deems me so. And how these expectations not only drive your actions towards me, they drive me from actions. For how could one act in a role they did not write, and why must I find myself on that stage under the eye of said expectations? An ode to being a man. Please be lonely, my fellow man, and in such loneliness, please learn what a man is. And in this learning, please learn what it means not to be a man. Then while lonely, forget it all. An ode to our imprisonment. Under the gaze of the eager eye, will you kneel with me and whisper everything it takes to be a man, and tell me how you'll have nothing to do with it? Like beasts of the wild, can we simply be flesh upon flesh unmeasured, our naked backs against our imprisonment? An ode to a dumbbell. The only time I can show the weight of this world, I am here and I am fierce. As I thrust my way up and let out a scream, this weight means nothing. An ode to importance. They tell me life is very important, so dreadfully so. It's important that it kills you. Yet is my life nothing more than just a life that's been measured in importance? Is the word importance just sounds vibrating through the air? Or does this body of flesh of mine need it like it needs water, food, love, and air? An ode to the individual. If I were to meet myself without a name or language, would the toll of man still mutter from my mouth, and would I make noises of joy, sorrow, or no noise at all? To see the self of myself in nature stark naked like a fawn at dawn, simply just there and me, over here. Such innocence will be damning and such envy be overwhelming. The toll of man would speak for me about such useless things. An ode to innocence. I declare myself innocent to all that a simple man must carry in a complex world. I hold myself free of this and all that has a name and measure. For simply one man's worth, my worth, should be the champion for which life be lived, not the judge of a life to just be life? Are we no more than intricate ways of being simple? And does this fact echo or simply vibrate? Vibrate with me and be simple. An ode to colors. Why must all the colors the world has to give be seen in the first few seconds of birth? Imagine taking my hand as we walk into colors yet seen. Will such vibrancy dance as it's never danced before? Will these colors have names and assigned application? You asked me once, where do all the colors go in the dark? And I once thought such a thing silly. And 86. An ode to you as well as I. If we took a walk out into the dark, would you glow more than I? Would all that makes you whole illuminate the sky? Would you too see black and be one with? Does all that make me less black in the blacked out sky? Do we as fools shine nonetheless the same, for we claim to run separate? Yet you too as well as I, what do we mean to a blacked out sky? An ode to the end. If only you really knew why words have not only failed me, yet have failed you. If I could have one wish, it would be to see you before words, to see you free. And also, see you buy my book on Amazon, Ode by Maxwell Kale. Bye.